Samuel Little admitted to 93 murders spanning 19 states in 35 years, making him the most prolific serial killer in United States history. Little was a drifter from Ohio who preyed upon the fringes of society: prostitutes, drug addicts, women he believed the police wouldn't work too hard to find. Samuel Little himself didn't leave much of a paper trail. He also sought out what the FBI deems high-risk victims, people who may engage in lifestyle practices or work that exposes them to dangerous people. He murdered mostly women between 1970 and 2005. He wasn't convicted of murder until 2014, although he had been charged with killing women in Mississippi and Florida in the 1980s. He escaped indictment in Mississippi and conviction in Florida. And it wasn't until more recently that Texas Ranger James Holland managed to win over Little's trust, leading the imprisoned killer to confess to 93 killings. So far, 50 of the purported cases have been verified by FBI. The following interviews on 5 of those unmatched cases were released by the FBI with expectations that the public will help identify the victims. The FBI is hoping people will pay attention, that they'll look at those sketches drawn by Samuel Little of his victims, and perhaps some leads can come from it.
Hey, tell me about Northern Kentucky, the girl that you met in Columbus. So you meet this girl, I guess you're at a strip bar downtown Columbus.
I went on my car, and this white girl come out behind the building. And I'm in my trunk. She walked over to me, say, come on, y'all, can you take me to Miami?
Describe this girl to me. Is she white, black? What's she look like?
She was white, blonde hair, dishwater blonde, they go. It's short.
Short, like shoulder length?
Yeah,
or
no, ear length, a little over his ear length.
like a bob?
Yeah, like a bob.
Okay, and how tall do you think she was?
She was about 5'7".
How much do you think she weighs?
She weighed about 130.
How old do you think she was?
Oh, she was about 25.
Okay. You mentioned before that you said she kind of had like this hippie aura to her.
Yeah, she did give you a hippie feeling. I think she was some kind of hippie, yeah.
So you go to Cincinnati, you mess around on Vine Street, and then eventually you guys both get in your car and you cross over the bridge into Kentucky. Tell me about going into Kentucky.
We got to Covington, and then we continued through Covington. Mm-hmm. And there was a park that they were having a festival there. And she heard the music and shit off of that band in there. And by her being a hippie type, you know, she wanted to get to that. But the police came over and peeped in our car. We really wanted me to move out of there. So we, instead of going in there, I took her the other way.
Right.
Winding around, they got hills out in Kentucky, and the road winds around the hills. Mm-hmm. I seen a little short road going up the hill, and up top there was vegetation, wasn't no houses or nothing. And so I pulled up in there and concealed the car in that little vegetation up there on top of the hill.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about this road that goes up the hill. What kind of road is it?
It was like a dirt road.
Okay.
It was like dirt. The grass was growing in the middle between 2 tracks. When I left her up in that little road up there, on the side of that little road, she was like partially concealed by the vegetation. And I left her there.
For many years, Samuel Little believed he would not be caught because he thought no one was accounting for his victims. Even though he died December 30th, 2020, the FBI believes it is important to seek justice for each victim, to close every case possible.
Las Vegas. Describe the Las Vegas victim.
That was in '93.
Okay.
I bought a Eldorado.
What color Eldorado?
It was a yellow.
Okay. Yellow Cadillac Eldorado.
Yep.
All right. What year?
78.
Okay. Well, tell me about this girl. What does she look like?
She was kind of thin, dark skinned, about 40 years old. She was out there hustling. I think she was a drug addict because she wouldn't have been out there.
How tall was she?
She was about 5'5", 5'3".
And how much do you think she weighed?
She weighed about 110, 120.
Okay. What about her did you know?
The boy came, that was her son. And she called him over there. And he came over, he shook my hand and everything, yeah.
Now, how old was he?
He was about 20 or about 19, 20.
Okay, black male or?
Black male.
And where were you at when you met her?
It was on Owens Avenue.
Okay.
Owens, that's down in the black section. Owens and Jackson.
Where do you eventually take her body to?
I was headed toward California. So as I drove out of Las Vegas, I seen a motel and a road leading up to the motel. And there's a lot of bushes and brushes us beside the road before you got to that motel. That's where I pulled up her body out and rolled it down there. And I heard a secondary roll of noise. That meant she was still rolling.
So you basically roll her into a pretty big ditch that's got a bunch of...
Well, it wasn't a ditch, it was a slope.
Okay.
That didn't look like a slope because the vegetation had grown up out of the slope and looked like you would think that the road would just be flat. But actually the road was going down a slope like. And that's why she rolled.
So this is a slope right off the road?
Yeah.
Okay. And tell me about how far do you think you were outside of Las Vegas?
The road I was on was going towards Searchlight. So whatever the name of that road is, that's the road I was on.
How far outside of Las Vegas do you think you were? Were you in Las Vegas?
I was still in Las Vegas, yeah.
Okay.
But I was on the very outskirts.
All right.
The very outskirts. There was a couple of motels I remember, gas stations and there. It was scattered, because it was getting thin population as you go further out.
Experts say that gender and sexuality are central to cases such as this one. On the one hand, there's masculinity, misogyny, a desire to kill women. And on the victim's side, sex workers are some of the most vulnerable women in society. Criminal justice experts whose research focuses on human trafficking and victimization say sex workers tend to be a fairly common target for serial killers for this reason. In many cases, they're estranged from family. They don't necessarily have a support network that would report to law enforcement if somebody went missing. The issue is even more acute when it comes to transgender individuals because of the transgender community's history of distrusting the police. They are also far less likely to report violence when it occurs. Race plays an important role too.
Tell me about Mary Ann.
She's what you nowadays they call a transgender.
She's a black male dressed up as a female. Okay. How tall is she?
Marianne's about 5'7", 5'6". She weighed about 135.
Okay.
Maybe 140.
And how old do you think she was?
But she was 19.
Okay. And where was she from?
No, Miami, down in Liberty City.
Okay. And did she, you'd mentioned before she had a boyfriend, or she talked about a boyfriend?
Named Wes.
Wes?
Yeah.
And tell me about where you met her at.
I seen her down at the Guar on 17th Avenue, and she had on a short cream miniskirt. Cream and red. So then this opportunity popped up. Take her to the store.
Right.
Instead of me bringing her back to the apartment, I went down 27th Street. That's going down to Fort Lauderdale, called the Alligator Alley. It runs into Alligator Alley.
Right.
But the further out you get, the further you get out of Miami.
Right.
And you got vegetation in there.
Now, how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
It wasn't too far to Miami, right there. I was in my stepdaddy's car, Pontiac Le Mans.
Now, where'd you take her to?
Continued down 27. Got back on 27.
Going outside of Miami. Okay.
Miami.
Going away from Miami.
Going away from Miami. We got down past the let's say limits. So I continued on toward Fort Lauderdale, and I seen a road going off the main road back into the vegetation on the left side. So I got her out of the car, pulled her out, and drug her into the growths back there, and pulled her deeper into there's a path. A little path was running somewhere. I don't know where it led it to, but it was running deeper into the undergrowth. It's like Everglades like that. And we ran into some water running. But before we got to the water, the earth was mushy. I turned her loose, and she fell into it face down.
And how far outside of Miami do you think you were?
About a mile, 2 miles.
Some say that the Little case raises larger questions about how America treats victims. There's still this idea of what constitutes a victim. There's a sense that if you're trans, if you're hypersexualized, are you really a victim or are you seeking it out? It's clear that Little chose his victims carefully. In a statement, FBI crime analyst Christy Palazzolo said that for many years, Little believed he would not be caught because he thought no one was accounting for his victims. Police work very, very diligently to solve cases involving sex workers, but they are often very, very tough cases to solve, noting that many such cases go unreported for days or even months. Experts are hopeful that advancements in technology, including improved DNA testing and more widespread surveillance cameras, will prevent perpetrators such as Little from being successful in the future. But a larger shift in societal attitudes around sex work is still crucial.
She was pretty, a light-skinned, brown, honey-colored skin. And she was about 5, she was about tall, she was tall for a woman, about 5'8", 5'9", and it's beautiful shape, and she's friendly.
And how much do you think she weighed?
She had a beautiful body, a beautiful 150, well put together.
And how old do you think she was?
She was about 30.
Okay, and she's a black female.
Yeah.
And tell me where you met her.
I met her in a nightclub in New Orleans. Her and her sister she had 2 sisters. Her and her youngest sister was having a birthday party. Her sister was dancing with this guy on the floor. And when I come in, the girl that I was with offered me to dance with me. And while we were dancing, she says, you want to go riding after this, after this party's over? We walked outside and she looked and seen my car at Lincoln. She said, ooh, that's a beautiful car too. So she had arm in arm, walking to the car. We got in, stopped at the gas station. We were on the Highway 10 and going toward Slide Hill. I seen the sign say Little Woods. So I took off the exit, went, and that sure enough was the road leading into the woods. And we went in and parked. So we finally got to where we were going. It was by a bayou, a river, a little water thing. And the big, they had a machine out there in that little river.
Dredging? Okay.
I grabbed her by the legs and pulled her to the water. That's the only one that I ever killed by drowning.
Describe the location where she's left.
Okay, I left her with her head still laying in the water, half her body in the underwater, and her thighs and legs on the bank.
North Little Rock. Tell me what that girl looked like.
Oh man, I loved her. I forget her name. Oh wait, I think it was Ruth.
Okay.
She was a heavy-set, big old yellow gal, and had buck teeth. It had a gap between the teeth. That's what it was. And she was like honey-colored skin, and she had her hair was not really long. It was
How tall do you think she was?
She was about 5'7".
How much do you think she weighed?
She weighed about close to 200, about 170.
Pretty big girl.
Yeah.
Now, where did you meet her at?
Okay, down there in the crack house. Her and about 6 other girls was sitting on the porch. The dude selling crack in there. I stopped to go in there. I seen the girl, that's why I stopped. We stayed together 2 days or more. I think about 3 days. We was going shoplifting. We went to Sears. We went to Kroger's, and that's where I got busted. Mm-hmm. They took me to jail, and she went and stayed in the car. And the manager of Kroger's, I guess he got tired of her laying up in his property in that car. He called the station where I was at in North Arkansas to drop the charges. Mm-hmm. So he can come down and get this gal and car out of here. They cut me loose. So we was headed toward with that place where Walmart's original store bent. I whooped off the road and back into that little woods. There was a cornfield back there. I pulled through it, and on the other side of the cornfield was a trash pile. I parked the car facing out where I could see anybody coming in. So I pulled her out of the car. She's too big for me to carry her. So I just pulled her out of the car and laid on that trash that was lit there.
So was it like a cornstalk pile, or was it?
Yeah, a bunch of corn stalks.
What could you see from there?
I could see the highway, mm-hmm. and in the woods is that way. But it's right outside of Little Rock. I was about 10 miles from it.
From North Little Rock, you think 10 miles?
Yeah, it was about 10 miles.
Okay.
He told a reporter that no one could understand how much love was in his heart for the women he killed. His babies, he called them. Even though he said he felt bad about the pain he put his victims through, thinking about them was the only thing that made him feel alive in his dark cave of a cell. So day after day, he lay alone and replayed the killings, drawing his babies from memory when he could get his hands on a pencil. How did it feel to kill them? He was asked. Ooh-ee, felt like heaven. Felt like being in bed with Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe. A cartoon woman. It wasn't pointed out to Little that in bed wasn't where he ever wanted to be with women. Despite his insistence on how he loved women, worshipped them even. He said when he was a child he didn't realize they were humans who ate and slept and went to the bathroom. He thought they were angels. When he talked about the murders, he lit up like a kid on Christmas morning, becoming animated and performing an elaborate pantomime. He hugged himself and made kissing noises. With one outstretched arm, he demonstrated just how much force it took to crack hyoid bone. I had my own hard days, you know, he said. But I never killed nobody like my smart baby here, he protested. I never killed no senators or governors or fancy New York journalists. Nothing like that. If I killed them, it'd be all over the news the next day. I stayed in the ghettos. Until the time of his death in 2020, Little was still being investigated and tried for multiple murders. And he even admitted in November of 2020 that he was responsible for the deaths of 2 Florida women, one of which the wrong man was being convicted for. The list of atrocities Samuel Little committed is long, to say the least. But he would draw pictures of the women he killed, and the FBI was able to use the pictures to crack the case of a woman's murder in Akron, Ohio, a cold case that was nearly 30 years old. Now that the man is gone, who knows how many more cases will remain unsolved? Maybe, just maybe, these drawings will one day find the owner of their identity. The FBI is asking for the public's help in matching the remaining unconfirmed confessions. They are in hope that someone may remember a detail that could further the investigation. If you have any information linked to Little's confessions, please contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov.
What is going on, YouTube? I am Lamont at Large. Today I am in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm going to show you the exact location of where serial killer and mass murderer Samuel Little was apprehended and arrested. If you don't know who he is, Samuel Little, the FBI has called the absolute most prolific serial killer in United States history. But before I show you the location, we're going to talk a little bit about the man and his history and how he got away with so many murders. And currently, right now, I am standing on Jefferson and Jackson here in Louisville, Kentucky. And right in front of you is the Wayside Christian Mission. And on that date, this is where convicted mass murderer Samuel Little was apprehended and arrested. And of course, after being in custody, that is where he confessed to all of those murders. I'm going to end the video by saying this. I'm a very visual person, just like how many other people, most people are in the world. And you really think when you see this old, decrepit man in the interviews just nonchalantly talking about all of the women and men that he murdered, mostly women, in his life, the blasé way in which he expresses the story about, oh yes, I remember so-and-so and what have you, you got to ask yourself, and many of you might have, how did he kill so many people and get away with it? Why did so many people go with him in his car simply to be led to their deaths? Well, the main explanation that I have, that I could tell you, is that if you look at his pictures of when he was a younger guy, he was a pretty good looking dude. I mean, if you look at him when he was 30, 35, and you're a woman, there's a pretty good chance you're going to be attracted to him. He was tall, 6'3", built, light colored eyes. Hey, you call it the way you call it, but a lot of women are going to go with that man, and unfortunately, a lot of women went to their deaths. Anyways, he is no longer on this planet. He is right where he belongs. Payable on death. Every dog has his day, best believe. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it so much. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button. Scarlett will always upload, tell you what she's uploading. Anyways, guys, God bless. Thank you for watching. Peace out.